Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Questlove Supreme. I'm your host, Questlove. Team Supreme is with me. Hello.
Hey, man, I'm excited. I'm good.
I'm excited too.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Yeah, I think we're allowed to say excited. As a person that is on every Zoom pitch, I think everyone's excited is the equivalent of saying Macbeth in the theater. You should not be on a Zoom and say everyone's excited. So, it's like that's the
not to apply it to every Zoom. This is specifically an exciting Zoom.
Right. This is not a business meeting. So
yeah.
Sugar Steve, what up, bro?
Hi, Amir. Hi, Team Supreme. Hi, Shaggy. How's everybody doing?
I'm great, man.
Oh, just give it away now. Give it away now, Steve. Thanks. Let's edit that. Let's edit that. Hey, Steve, how you doing, bro?
Hey, Shaggy.
Fontigolo, man. How's it going down there?
It's good, bro. I'm all right, man. I'm finishing up my dinner. I want to be eating on camera.
Yo, just let it go to a black screen. I think Fonte should be like the neighbor on Home Improvement. Where we just right. We just see a black screen. No, it's all good. All right, so technically speaking, I should do a proper introduction.
Okay.
All right,
okay.
So basically, I will say that I probably be. I'm so glad that Unpaid Bill's not here to make fun of me for saying that. Go ahead, Steve. Say it. I know you have something.
Nope.
Anyway, I will say that we probably had a conversation with every musician, every walk of life, but I don't think I've ever had an in-depth conversation with anyone in the dancehall reggae world. I mean, if you discount Super Cat complaining that I wasn't good on drums at the Roots Jam session.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. He complains about a lot of things. So
yeah, okay.
Don't feel bad. He cussed me out totally.
Yeah, someone told me that it's actually a badge of honor if he cusses.
It is.
Up, so yeah.
It is. You know?
I will say
and I'm not cutting you, but I'll tell you what. Super Cat was one of the first person to give me a microphone when I was in Brooklyn, back in Flatbush, back in the days when I was a young guy, and he would bring the microphone and give it to me because everybody was fighting, to spit on the mic, and he always gave me. So he could say anything about me. I'm taking that because he was that guy.
It's funny you say that. I really wanted to do this episode because I've said it a few times before, but our guest today
saved the Roots.
Yeah, I will say that if it weren't for our guest today, none of this would be.
What?
Wow.
I'm not saying none of this would be possible, but I know for a fact very directly that the fruits and the overfloweth monetary nature of our guest and his art form definitely came as an 11th hour saving grace / life raft, if you will, for my band, which I will say to the end of the time that Shaggy is all right with me. He's done so many legendary things. He's sold over 40 million units, has over 800 million streams. He's collaborated with the best. Name it. From Shaka Khan to Eve to Janet Jackson, Cardi B, Maxi Priest, Barrington Levy, to the Maytals. Dude, even right now the gold standard is to get billions of streams on TikTok. He's done that as well. And right now we're here to celebrate his new project. First of all, you and Sting together. That's all right. We already gave it away at the top of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Shaggy.
Yes, sir. Loba. Yes. Thank you very much, Quest. You know what? I gotta. You put a lot of weight on my shoulder there, Quest, because It's not the first time I've heard you said that, and
Yeah, dog.
I've been meaning to see you and talk to you about that. You're putting that's a lot of weight on my shoulder.
Y'all got to remind people of this story.
No,
Remind
I
people.
mean, basically, you know, I think with the way that a successful record label can operate, you know, I mean, yes, everybody wants, you know,
It was,
a vast array of artists on their label and whatnot, but you know, the label also needs an earner, and you know, It Wasn't Me was so inescapable. In
yes,
98, 99, that basically we were kind of wondering where, like, we'd spend a lot of money on Things Fall Apart, and you know, it's kind of like, if you ever seen what's Adam Sandler's movie that I thought he should have got nominated for an Oscar for? Oh, Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah.
The industry
The
industry is a lot like Uncut Gems, where you got to rob Peter to pay Paul. So oftentimes, you know, I'll read about my favorite records getting made, and they'll say like, well, we had to take some money from the Doobie Brothers project to pay for this project, and da 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 da. In our case, I will say that a good portion of the promotion that we had to do for Things Fall Apart, the videos we had to do, the promotions, the ads we had to take out, all those things, definitely our A&R said, you guys better be lucky for Shaggy's success, because this is how we're paying for your budget.
It was you know what it is too, Quest. It was a very strange climate. That whole company was a strange climate.
It was.
You know, it was. You really didn't have an urban department.
We didn't.
In that company. A lot of people need to know that it was very pop based, and I was lucky to have these records that started as, none of those songs were singles. They were never picked as single, but they ended up becoming big pop records and really saved me, because when I came in there, there was no, but I was in the same space as the Roots. You know, I wasn't getting budgets either. It just so happened that we had a song. I was right at the minute to be dropped, and then, because the first two singles came out was Dance and Shout and Hope, and they flopped. And a DJ out of Hawaii started to play It Wasn't Me. After the fifth play, it just lit up his phone, and it just continued to spread. And that's what saved my ass, because I was about to be on the chopping block, you know, just like you guys. It was just what it was. And they weren't planning to spend money, because it was just not a company that really was focused around marketing urban music. It was just not that kind of a climate in that company. It wasn't that.
And did your record skip the line and go right to pop, right? Because it felt like it didn't have, right.
Yes. It actually went to pop and then came back to urban. Yeah. It's just, it was like it became pop, and then, but you know what it is? The clubs was fucking with it so much that, urban radio say, well, if the club is doing it, we might as well play it. We know the white stations is playing it, but really and truly, in every ghetto club, they saying It Wasn't Me. So let me rock with it. You know what I'm saying? And if you think about it, Angel wasn't as lucky. Angel continued to stay pop and didn't go back in it, because it was never a club joint. So it didn't really connect like that. While Bombastic also, from a previous album, that was also club, and then ended up going to pop. And then urban started playing it again. So it was just a strange climate at that time, especially for reggae.
Who was that DJ? Because that DJ is also the one in Hawaii is also the one that broke All My Life for Casey and JoJo.
Yep.
They had the same situation where they were about to, the album's about to flop, and then this one DJ, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think, Lai can also explain it. Since like 97, there was one movie that came out that sort of explained how radio works, called Before the Music Dies. That came out like 2004, but in 97, when I guess what I can call the clear channel era of radio comes into play, where Now people have to pre-program the music like
Right.
weeks ahead of time.
No, it's blowing my mind because I'm like, pop DJs don't break records, right? So the fact that this one did and then broke these two black records that circle back to black radio when black radio usually starts, it's blowing. It's a mind blower.
Yeah, well, actually, like, let me ask you, because I mean, I know you haven't been on terrestrial radio for a minute, but just during the time period when you were on radio, like how far advanced, like when do they actually start feeding the machine and saying like, okay, we're going to play this Beyonce song 14 times a day and they pick this specific time, like they do a playlist.
Yeah.
Like, when does that programming start?
I mean, it's a process. It's also like record reps coming to the station that was a big thing, when it comes to y'all being represented in a way, right? It's like what the record rep is selling, what's their priority. And then once it's the priority, depending on the artist, sometimes since it's a priority and it's an artist and maybe the label, it's all kind of dynamics, but it's never, Shaggy has always been different in that way because it's never been pop breaking records and just naturally that happening. That's a natural thing, and that doesn't happen, right, Shaggy?
Well, I think a lot of it boils down to the demographic. I mean, when you look at that time, they're going to look at what urban music is selling, and then they're going to look at what reggae is. Now, there's a big argument now where you say that reggae is, less than 5% of the global market share. So you can't expect any major company or any company to be putting major money into any act that is less than 5% of the market share. My argument to that is, when has it ever not been less than 5%? Right. When I was selling 40 million records, it was 3%. After me, then you had Sean Paul and everybody. It became popular. Before then, it was never on radio. Right. I was the guy that got it on radio. So it was always less than 5%. You know what I mean? Nothing has ever changed on that. And these record companies, they invest based on that. So it's not gut. It's, so when I'm doing these numbers and they're like, oh shit, we didn't know that could happen. And so they ended up chasing. Now, you sell 10 million records, you would think they're going to be like, well, he just did it. Let's invest again and do that. They're looking at it like, yeah, that ain't gonna never.
That was a one-off. Yeah,
that's a one-off. Yeah. They're gonna think of it. They're gonna think of it as that.
Where we are now today. You're seeing other genres as sort of with the DNA of dancehall and reggae. Like I know that African music.
Afrobeat.
Okay, so I have to call it West African.
I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of it is from.
Well, okay. Nigeria.
Now we're going to get into Afrobeat versus Afrobeats, and I want no parts of that.
All right, but what I'm basically asking is, like, between reggaeton and West African music and now with dancehall, are you finding it now, are people generally trying to lump, like, an entire genre of non-Americanized rap, non-Americanized pop into this mold that you now have to fit into in 2022, where say, the average Joe from Kansas might not know the difference between the music that you're doing and the music that J Balvin's doing and the music that
Bad Bunny.
Or Bad Bunny or whoever is.
What's so crazy is that, there's a history on this. Daddy Yankee called me sometime last year and asked me, because there was a documentary being shot, supposed to be on Netflix, that really talks about reggaeton. He couldn't tell the story of reggaeton because he wasn't there. It was before him. But he knew that I know. You know what I mean? But, so and the starting of reggaeton started by a guy by the name of El Gringo out from Puerto Rico, out of Brooklyn.
Okay.
And El Gringo, he went to prison. Okay. And then El General, right, ended up doing dancehall records in Spanish, right, which was put out on VP. And there was a guy, Carl Miller, who literally was the guy that was producing these songs for VP Records. El General ended up blowing up. Now, the crazy part about it is El General and I went to Erasmus Hall in Brooklyn. And we would be in the lunchroom. And the lunchroom had the Puerto Rican clique, the Panamanian clique, the Jamaican clique, you know what I mean, the Haitian clique. And we would be on the book benches and we would be and spit freestyles. And people would gather around. Right, exactly. And El General would be over there doing the same thing in Spanish. Out of there. And so him and I, that's how we became friends, because I used to spit it on the bench and he'd be over there. And then he started to make these dancehall, these old Shabba Ranks records. Now the beat of reggaeton is called dembow. You should know, you know that, Quest, right? So it's called yes, exactly.
Dembow,
now,
dembow.
It comes from Shabba Ranks dembow. Now El General and them used to do these reggae records, these dancehall records over in Spanish, and that became Spanish reggae. Carl at VP ended up calling it reggaeton. And through mispronunciation over there, it became reggaeton. That is the beginning of what is reggaeton.
Was this prior to
do you see our faces right now?
Yeah. Was this prior to like Tego Calderon and those guys? Was that
Tego was after. Tego was after. There was a guy out of Bronx called Gungi Rivera, who used to have these big nightclubs, and he was the one that used to promote a lot of these Spanish reggae acts, right? That used to be in Uptown around that time.
Okay.
Gungi was a major force in the development of it. You know what I mean?
So are you in the documentary? Are you in this documentary? Did they just call?
Well, yeah. Okay. They call me to tell the story because, you know, I'm, in fairness to a lot of these newer acts, they don't know that story.
So you literally were there to witness, like,
I was there. Yeah, I was there through the whole thing. I was part of the whole thing.
This is why I'm excited. Shaggy's a national treasure.
Yeah.
I know.
We don't know this. Wait, how come? Why doesn't the world know this?
Nobody asked, but it is documented. I can tell you, it is true. Now, say for instance, when we did Afrobeat. Now, let's go to the Africa, West Africa, as you would say. I used to go to Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, all these places, and I would play stadiums because the main music of those countries was dancehall. It was not Zouk or you wasn't hearing Fela Kuti or any of these guys. It was dancehall in the streets, in the clubs of Nigeria or any of these places. It's dancehall, and so I would go there, play stadiums, and a lot of these artists would open, for us. You know, you're talking a lot of these artists that you see big Afrobeat artists opens on a lot of shows for us down there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We could go back even further when you look at, you know, there's a lot of opening. You talking about the Spice Girl opened for Shaggy in Bombastic.
Oh, shoot.
You know what I mean? You know, I mean,
Flex.
In Sync, we used to do road shows in Europe at that time where they opened for us. So it's been
this man his Kennedy Center honor.
His journey. It's been a whole journey of how that began, because I've been doing it for 30 odd years, you know, of doing that. So in the Afrobeat, if you listen, it is really influenced by dancehall, right? Even though they've developed their own sound, right? But it is really kind of influenced from that.
What is the correlation, or the relationship between like dancehall and also what is called lovers rock? Like, I guess lovers rock.
So lovers rock. Okay, so if you look at what Jamaican music started from a beat called mento into ska into what's known as rock steady, right? And then from exactly, and it's really about the shuffle that makes it go chick 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 chick, and then there you go reggae chick 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 chick. It's a different vibe of how it's done. It's really about the tempo and the feel of it that moves it from a ska to a rock steady. And rock steady is, out of rock steady came what is known as lovers rock. What lovers rock is, it's that one drop reggae and people sings these beautiful love songs. And why it became lovers rock is because they used to do a lot of covers. Like a lot of these big reggae songs were covered. Take, for instance, you look at, let's just go even one of the biggest, all right? And these are white boys, and it blew up because they're white boys, but it also blew up because they were just great covers. Red Red Wine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. UB40.
By UB40 was originally Neil Diamond that did Red Red. But they did it over in reggae, and it became, now Neil Diamond, when he's singing, he does a reggae version.
Right.
He better.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I'm
the
saying?
version we acknowledge. I didn't even know that was a cover. I didn't know that was his version.
Songs like I Can't Help Falling in Love.
Right.
Was Elvis Presley, but was done by UB40. Then you have the other flip side of it, you know, like Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Cyndi Lauper was drum and bass. Drum and bass was done by Sly and Robbie.
Oh, that
which
was
two of the biggest. You know what I mean? So there's a lot.
Time out. Wait,
yes.
time out. You're telling me that Sly and Robbie are the rhythm section?
They're the rhythm. There were session musicians in America.
No. I know that, but I could have thought Philly's own the Hooters. Well, I know they wrote it, but I didn't know.
But the drum and bass of it, the groove of that was Sly Robbie. That's why Cindy ended up going back.
You go kick that knowledge, yo.
Just listen.
You might have to join Questlove Supreme.
Our expert.
So it's when you think of the blend of music of how stuff is, and even those early Grace Jones records, which were Sly and Robbie also.
Mm-hmm. Sly and Robbie, yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Gwen Guthrie. So you look at the building of Island Records and what it is was reggae based. You look at somebody like Chris Blackwell, who founded U2, and U2 was a folk band when he discovered those guys, and he transformed them into a rock band. You know, it was kind of a Christian style folk band.
Wait, you're dropping so many bombs right now. Just to make sure. You said Gwen Guthrie, so you're saying ain't nothing going on but the rent is also Sly and Robbie?
Sly and Robbie, yes.
Damn.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Ain't no,
Yes.
Damn, that makes total sense, man.
Yeah.
Yo, okay, wait. I want more education, but I got to know your life.
Yeah.
All right, what was your very first musical memory?
My first musical memory was my grandmother used to play. We're from a poor neighborhood in Kingston, Raytown, and from a place called a small fishing village in Raytown, where I was on Charlotte Street. We lived in one room. My grandmother used to play a lot of radio because we didn't have television. And I, as a kid, used to think that the guy was in the radio singing. I had no idea there was records. And I used to listen to these really wonderful records, but I remember writing my own song, and it's called You're Mine. My very first song, I was probably, I'd say around 8, 9 years old or some shit. And I said, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine. You're really, really mine. And my love, come our love, is everlasting. You're free line of human flower. You light up my life every hour. And as long as, I can't remember the lyrics after that, but that was my first thing I ever written just in my head by listening to the radio. So the radio was a comfort for me where music was concerned. And I just really listened to all of those songs. And there was songs like Mahalia Jackson was a big thing in my house. Even early songs like, I don't know if you guys familiar with Toots and the Maytals.
Toots and the Maytals, absolutely.
I'm on this record.
You know, yeah, exactly. You're a big Toots fan. My grandmother was. You know what I mean? So a lot of these records, Bing Crosby was a big thing. Nat King Cole was a big thing in my household. So on Sundays in Jamaica, that type of music goes well with chicken and rice and peas, which is when we're doing these Sinatra records. These Sinatra records, you know, were repertoires that I listened to and were grown up on Sundays, because reggae in Jamaica didn't start play till I would say probably around the 80s.
Yeah.
When
Wait, what?
Somebody told me that
huh?
in Jamaica, that's the first big superstar in Jamaica was like Bob Marley for real. Like they were like for real. That's
no,
like largest.
Well,
largest.
he's the largest one. But there were people like, for instance, reggae music was looked down on. It was looked as ghetto.
I was going to
music.
ask how does that work with? Okay, every Jamaican that I know is super conservative, and you know, I always wanted to know, how did Jamaican natives that are like the parents of my Jamaican friends who are strictly Christian, don't like, you know, secular music and all that stuff, how does that mesh in with the culture of like Bob Marley and
Rastafarianism?
I get the feeling, like,
Any
was that the
Jamaican
gangster rap of the time, or
no? Any Jamaican you know that is in that kind of a itty-tighty, for the lack of a better word, kind of a person, they were uptowners. So there's two things. There's downtown and there's uptown. The uptown are the more privileged class of people. You know what I'm saying? There's the crazy story that Bob Marley lived on a street called Hope Road, where Tough Gong is. Back in the days, that's the same street that the King's house is, which is where the Queen's resident is.
Oh,
that's the same street that the Prime Minister's residence is on. You know what I mean? When you look at it, that house that Bob Marley lived in, 56 Hope Road, was actually purchased by Chris Blackwell, which was a white Jamaican that lived around the corner at a place called Terra Nova that is now a hotel, which was his original home. So it took a Jamaican white guy to actually buy that, because as a Rastafarian, Bob wouldn't have been able to purchase that.
Yeah,
because it was what's known as classism in Jamaica back in them days. So when you look at Yellow Man and those guys at one point in Jamaica, if you were a certain color, you couldn't come past the halfway tree clock, because that's how it was. Because you ain't from that class. After a certain hour, you're not up there. This is years.
Oh, because to be from that class, you had to be lighter and more affiliated with.
Exactly. So for me, I'm from the hood.
Is this the British rule or the Jamaican on Jamaican rule?
It's just if you're talking about colonialism.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, from that's inherited down. You know what I'm saying? So as it goes, you see people coming into all of this, where you see uptowners now started to do dancehall. You know what I'm saying? Take for instance, like a Sean Paul he's from the uptown.
Okay.
A Juna Gang is from the uptown, because those guys are from parents that, you know, when Bob Marley made money, he went to Hope Road. That's uptown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Juna Gang, a guy like Juna Gang would go to, you know, a good school and goes there. While another set of people now, they're from the streets, the hood of the hood. You talk about Seaview Garden, Tivoli Gardens, you talk about the hood. You know what I'm saying? But after a while, it's kind of became one. When the uptown kids started to do it, then it started to become accepted.
Yeah. Was that,
you know what I mean?
You mentioned Yellow Man earlier, and I've read some like stuff about him, just about how some of the struggles he faced, like being, because he was albino, and like
he was albino. The crazy thing about Yellow Man is here's an albino guy. That's the guy that made me want to get into music.
That's right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Right, because I went to a dance at Skateland, which is a popular venue, and he spit his lyrics and walked out. Yeah, well, it was some other sort of, I think it was Eyes Getting Married. He had all the big records at the time.
Yeah.
Walked and spit his lyric and walked out, and the whole dance walked out with him. I was like, damn, I want to be that guy. You know, but the crazy thing that he was an albino, you know what I mean, which is also looked down at in Jamaica. No, you know, he's like, yo, they call him, and he was at a place called Poorhouse at the time, which is kind of an orphanage in a way, that where he came from, right? And he rose out of that to become one of the superstars. Now, I always say, to shift culture, it takes a superstar. That means a star with superhero-like talent, charisma, work ethic, charm, right? To shift talent. Because if you look at Yellow Man, he didn't have a movement behind him, but the world stopped and took notice because he was a superstar, a star with superhero-like talent. Shabba Ranks, he walked in the room, you want to know who the fuck is that? That's a superstar. You got stars, and stars will, okay, promote culture, but are they going to shift culture? You know what I'm saying? And those are the guys that shift culture with superhero-like talent, right? Where they don't need lights and they don't need cranes throwing them out. They don't even need a record company spending money. They just got that shit, that swag. They walk in and they open them door, everybody be like, who the fuck is that? That motherfucker is the shit. That's what those guys are. That's the stars. And you had people who knew how to find those. If you look at, say you look at everybody, say you look at all the billionaires now. You look at, and Quest, you could understand this. You got Kanye, and then you got but you could understand. You're gonna understand what I'm saying.
No, I'm playing with you. I'm playing.
Yeah.
With you.
So you got Kanye and you got Rihanna. Both of them are billionaires or whatever, right? Who is their leg up? Jay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you look at Nicki and you look at Drake. Who is their leg up? Wayne. Okay. You look at 50. You look at Eminem. You look at Snoop. Who is his leg up? Their leg up. Drake. You look at Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys, arguably one of the greatest, singer-songwriter. But let's face it, she got Clive Davis. Her first, she didn't have to have a worry like me and you, Quest, where we got to sit down and worry about whether we got budgets or we got marketing. And she got all of that. Clive made sure she had all of that. And guess what? Her first interview was Oprah. and if you think about it, now who is our leg up?
Shaggy was our leg up, so
reggae guys in the half leg. Reggae guys in the half the leg up. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not against the leg up. I'm for it. You know what I'm saying? But in our culture, there have not been those opportunities a lot.
Well, you're giving the layup. You're giving it now.
So. Oh, that's all I do. If you look at the pattern of things that I do, I did Summertime with an unknown artist named Rayvon. Right? It Wasn't Me with an unknown artist named Rick Ra. I did Angel with an unknown artist named Rayvon. I did I Need Your Love with two unknown artists named Mohambi and Fady. I did Banana with which is the $1 billion, the 2 billion stream on TikTok with an unknown artist named Conqueror. And then I just did Spice at 150 million streams with that. So I always look for that. Yeah, I look for those records, those artists that have that thing, and I go and I put that in there, and I make those type of records because I'm not privileged to have budgets and rollouts. You know what I'm saying? So I just do what I can.
This is already it's a half hour in. This is probably one of the greatest educations that I've had of 2022. I will, like, from a person that's watched The Harder They Fall, like, a billion times, is okay. So if you are trying to establish yourself and not go to America, there's a difference between, half of the hip hop world came from Jamaica, but they had to come to New York first to shine. Yeah. But if you're in Jamaica and you want to get put on, what is the route? Like, can you walk me through? Now I know it's different now because of like digital colonialism. Like you could do one viral thing on YouTube and then maybe make it. But say, okay, in the 80s, if you want to get put on, how does what's the maze, the sort of
the circuit,
the journey. Yes. Well, to me, I'm glad you said now and then, because it's totally different now than what it was then. Back then it was highly dependent on the sound system. So the sound system was where you would go and freestyle. This is where Supercat, these guys come from. So you have the Kilimanjaro, you have King Tubby's, you have Jammy Sound System, you have all these sound systems. Those sound systems were what the ghetto kids could get on and spit. So they'll have these street dances. And on these street dances, anybody, if you were good in your neighborhood and you spitting on the streets and people are hearing you, you create your little fan base. And once the community know, you get on that mic and you get heard. You know what I mean? They used to have a thing called the Tasties Talent Contest, which was also a big way for people to get discovered back in Jamaica back in the early days. You know what I mean? So the sound system was where it was, because I started on a sound system out of Brooklyn too at the same time. That's how I ended up on Gibraltar Sound System and created my buzz within Brooklyn, where I was at, Starlight Ballroom, Biltmore Ballroom, all of this at that time, and created my own little buzz and my own little name when I started doing Big Up and Mompe and all those records. You know what I'm saying? But I started on sound system. So that was it. Nowadays, they got this.
Right.
You don't need to, like these kids, artists now don't do work. Like, you when you was promoting the Roots, I'm sure you traveled all over the world and did regional radio and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't do that now. They do a click of the button and say, hey, there goes promo.
Yeah. But it's a different challenge. I mean, we don't do like the radio and stuff, but it is, you can press that click of a button, but the bottleneck is now everyone can press that button. So now you're fighting for the attention, even if you don't, have the budgets or whatever.
Yeah.
You're still or the talent,
for the attention or the talent, right? You just fighting for the attention because everyone.
But you see, I disagree in one sense. I agree that there's a lot of them, but if you're a true talent, you could get through, because if you look at it, there's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you one of those guys that I'm saying, you say that when you walk in, you ain't got to get your shit and be like, who the fuck is that? You're gonna know. It's just good. It's like when you saw Coffee did that freestyle, and everybody looked when she was on BBC One Extra, and she did that freestyle beside Chronix, and you're like, who the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Your curiosity just jumped, and all she did was one freestyle. She didn't do nothing crazy, but it was just so special. You wanted to know who the hell that was.
Oh, yeah.
And so no matter, you'll get through the clutter if you're that good.
And you have to be. Yeah,
just gotta be that. I always tell big artists, I said, you want to cut through the clutter, you gotta perfect your craft.
Yeah.
So
what does that entail? In terms of reggae culture? Like, I know in hip hop culture, the very beginning, Tariq spent a lot of time in dictionary learning words he never knew before, constantly. But like, what is in terms
for him?
Like, what's impressive for a dancehall artist?
That's a good question.
Is it melodic delivery? Is it words? Is it it's really what that he happens to be rhyming over? Like, what?
It's really what you bring to the. You just said Tariq, he studied the dictionary. That was what he brought to the table that was different from everybody else. It's really what you're bringing to the table, right? To set you apart, because everybody could sit there and say they're going to spit lyrics, but what is that special little style that you're going to bring that's going to set you apart? For me, I was lyrical, but I also had this voice. Yeah, lover, one time, bombastic, romantic. Yeah, that, rare. That shit just set me the fuck apart.
Wait,
that was recognizable.
Amir, make us stop. Say something. Stop. Wait, stop.
Wait. How did you develop that voice?
I was in the military. I used to run and sing cadences.
This is the story I've been waiting for. Okay.
Yeah, I used to run and sing and say, I don't know, but I've been told my CEO wears pantyhose. I used to sing because the drill instructors would talk to you like that. Hey, boy, drop and give it 20, boy. They put that voice on. So I used to mock them as a joke because it made my platoon laugh.
That's where that voice came from. This is a cultural break. Like,
I swear.
Later.
Man, wait till I tell Higgins this, Steve.
And then the crazy part is I ended up singing. I ended up doing "Oh Carolina" in that voice.
Yeah.
Oh Carolina, because if you listen, all right, if you ever listen to that song called "Big Up," big up, big up, big up. Notice that's a different tone of voice than the "Oh Carolina." Yeah, live your part
I
time,
just
your
thought it was
pop
like a young
expensive,
boy.
man.
I forgot that was you. I forgot Big Up was
Put
you.
down
when you
and out
said-
of here, run up, Big Up, right? That record is a different tone of voice, you know? And then I went ahead and did that.
Y'all, I didn't already fell on the floor before y'all even got on the line. I'm just trying to, my mind, he talking about that it come from a Southern, he took a Southern, Amir.
Wow, you took a Southern dialect like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Wow,
and just,
the more you know.
And just kind of worked with that.
So when did you move to the United States?
I came to the U.S. in 1985.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, so you came to the States specifically to go to the Army?
No, I came to the States. My mom was a journalist in Jamaica, the main newspaper here called the Gleaner, the Daily Gleaner. And my mother, she migrated to the States, and I'm an only child. So I ended up coming to America with her years afterwards. I was living with my grandmother in Jamaica. And in 1985, I came up, and it was a culture shock. I lived in New York Avenue between Tilden and Beverly in a building called the Irma. Can't remember it. And I went to Erasmus Hall, and I just it was a culture shock, because I'm seeing snow, and I think what shocked me the most was that people did their laundries in laundromats. Because I could because we did it in our backyard, and we hung it outside.
They hung it up,
yeah. And I couldn't believe that people would let people touch their drawers, like they would fold drawers and shit. I was embarrassed when I went to the laundromat with my mother, because people were seeing my drawers. I was like, I couldn't believe that. I was just raised different. It was like, you gonna just fold your drawers in front of everybody like that? What the fuck? Yeah. No. You know. So to me, it was like that. So it was a big culture shock, but it was also a melting pot, because I didn't know there were Haitians, and I didn't know there were Trinidadians. I didn't know that there were Panamanians. I just knew Jamaica, and then I started to figure out different people's cultures and realize that they all were similar, and that, you know, a lot of them really embodied dancehall and reggae, and I was a kid that really soaked all of that up.
How did witnessing American hip hop affect you when you got here?
I went to Erasmus that had a lot of, like, Special Ed was there. I had a lot of rappers that came out of that school. So hip hop was it was a beatbox era. So it's, Slick Rick was Jamaican. Dougie Fresh was, it was that whole vibe. So all that shit, it was things that I was like, so that even when you guys had Rozelle, that I was a big fan of Rozelle, because he did that shit. I mean, I think I think when Whitney Houston died, we were at the same day, House of Blues, and that's when we did a little freestyle thing with Rozelle at that time. So I was into hip hop from that point. Of course, then I ended up knowing Kool Herc down the line, and realized how the whole thing come. But if you look,
what high school was this?
Erasmus Hall. It's the second oldest high school in the United States. It's actually the high school that Clive Davis started Arista out of, and where Barbra Streisand graduated from. A lot of huge superstars named there. It's in the heart of Flatbush. It's right on Flatbush Avenue in Church. You know what I'm saying? And that's where, it's in Brooklyn. That's where I was at. And that whole vibe, is just where this whole energy came from.
You came here in 85, so I guess you were 16.
Yeah, something 16. Yeah.
All right. So by that point, what were your life goals in terms of
I wanted to be popular, because my mother dressed me funny.
What's that mean?
Old school. Well, she's
so they would tease you in school.
Yeah, it's an old school Jamaican woman that, she would give me her jacket, and the shit got pink in it and light blue and shit. And, the fuck I know, she poor.
Right.
I'm going to school, I wonder why nobody is being friends with me, except the little Haitian kids that he dressed worse than me. So, fuck it. So, but after a while, I had once I started was spitting lyrics, I became popular. And I realized that if I started to talk, I'd see a little cutie, I talk about her hair, or bamboo hair earrings, and I had to talk about her boots and her sheepskin jacket, and I'd talk about all of that and spit in a rhyme. I get a number, and I realized, oh shit, I get chicks like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did music. I wish I could say something deeper than that, but I was really pussy when I got. I got into music because I wanted to get laid, and I realized.
I think that's why everyone.
You ain't alone, bro. Yeah. You're not alone.
Bro, I realized that I spit lyrics. I was a ghetto superstar. I got these local hits. I got into clubs for free. I drink for free, and I walked out with the hottest chick, and I was in heaven. I was like, this is what I want to do. So for me, I love what Yellow Man did, and I was fascinated by that. But when I was in Brooklyn, there was no real outlet for dancehall. So my mother was like, you need to go do something with yourself. And so I started to sell drugs. I started to sell weed. I was on Clarkson on Nostrum, and then I had a little spot down at Gates Avenue. So you got into weed and coke and started, hustling. That's what, because every Jamaican I know, all my uncles, they're all hustlers. So you got into hustling.
Especially in New York, they had the good weed, all the Jamaicans.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah. And until after a while, motherfuckers start getting locked up, and you be like, okay, I got to get out of this shit. And so I went into the military. That's how I ended up in the military. I walked down at Flatbush Avenue at the junction and walked in and looked at all of the uniforms and looked at the Marines and said, yeah, I could get some chicks in that. I could get laid in that. I would have done this.
The hardest one, though. There's the hardest one, though, Shaggy.
Like, why would you choose the hardest?
I didn't know. The uniform looked the best, though. Because really, if you think about it, who wants to be in the Navy? They wear bell bottoms, bro.
Right.
Like, I remember walking around with a bell bottom. The Air Force got that little thing that looked like a blouse. Come on.
You are so Jamaican right now.
I am.
I know. I'm sorry.
So for me, the Marines just look like that, that dress blue shit, and that, bro, I was like, that shit, I won't do that. And then this guy called Perez, Sergeant Perez, I remember his name, that come in and was like, he was my recruiter. Yeah, I said, I want to get out of here by next week. It was like, I can't get you out this week. I can get you 2 weeks from now. I was like, if I ain't going out next week, I ain't going. And he, kind of worked some things. I ended up going 2 weeks after that.
So wait, where did you go? And then when did you realize that you was in the Marines and that was different?
I didn't know I was in the Marines because I passed all the tests.
Right.
And I went to North Carolina on a bus.
Okay.
And,
you the Camp Lejeune?
Yeah, Camp Lejeune, stepped out on them yellow footprints, and they just started screaming in my face. Yeah,
Camp Lejeune?
North Carolina, yeah.
Ain't that what a lawsuit is right now? Everybody, the commercials were people.
Is it?
Okay.
Is it? I don't know.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yes.
Yeah. So I would set them on them yellow footprints, and they just start screaming at me and spitting, chewing tobacco. And it was, so I chucked them because I'm from Brooklyn. I was like, boy, I caught them a fierce. And I see like 6 of them come down on me. I was like, okay, that's a bad idea. And
as a teenager, were you super rebellious? Like, what is it to be in the American Army? Like, in terms of, like, do you realize, like, okay, this is something that has a lot of discipline in it. We got to wake up at 5 in the morning, do a bunch of, at least this is what I see on television. But being
an only child of a very strict mother, I was very good.
So you used to this already.
Yeah, I would come home from school and I'd be the only person. So I knew where the key was under the mat. I'd go in, I'd make myself a sandwich, I'd do my homework. Because my mom would whoop ass. It wasn't, my mom would send you for the shit to whoop your ass. She'd be like,
the switch.
Go get,
that's international.
Yeah, she'd go get that shit. You know what I'm saying? So, and the beatings was not, it was, them was the legendary ass whooping. You know what I mean? So I was raised on that. So for me, coming to America, I was always very disciplined and on it. I really didn't get into too many trouble, but I also like nice things. And I wanted to be fly, and I wanted to be, you know what I mean? So if I worked at Baskin Robbins for one day, You know,
Oh.
I had a little apron on, a little thing, and the chick, there was a hot Puerto Rican chick came in, and she wanted, you know, started asking. I mean, me just scooping her ice cream just didn't look cool. So I was like, this ain't me, yo. So I was out.
Okay, last Marine question I got, because I
got one too.
Okay, cool. Because I don't think people understand that you got a Marine, but none of those other branches are a thing. They are not a noun. So this is like a big deal. So Shaggy, how far did you get? And your hands registered as weapons?
Say again?
I said, how far did you go in the Marines, and are your hands registered as weapons?
Well,
can I have my question on top of that? Because
yeah.
I don't know if my hands are registered as weapon, but I was in the first Gulf War. I did 7 months. 7 months.
You were in Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Desert Storm, yeah.
Much respect. My bad. Much respect.
Thank you. I did 4 years, but I didn't come out. It's funny. I didn't come out as a model Marine. I came out one above a private. I got demoted twice.
Wait, demoted?
Yeah.
How does one get demoted?
For AWOL, because I would drive from North Carolina to New York every weekend, and you're not supposed to go outside of a 50-mile radius. And I would drive. I did Old Carolina and Big Up in my uniform on a weekend, and went back in on Swoop Circle at 42nd Street. They had this thing called Swoop Circles where you jump in the van and they take you back. And so I did those records in my uniform. You know what I mean? And I would drive, and if I drive down in my uniform, so that most of the state troopers were ex-military. So if they stop you, they'd be like, okay, slow down, Marine, and let you go. So I would always drive in my uniform. And I'd come to and link up with Sting International, who was a DJ out of Brooklyn at the time, and and was my early producer. And we would make records, and I'd go right back in. So my early records, like Mompi and those songs, when they happened, I was in the military. I didn't even know they were hot in Brooklyn. They were just hot.
Wow. And were those records put out on a label, or how did the business work?
Yeah, there was a guy called Ben Sokolov. His brother was Will Sokolov. Will Sokolov Will Sokolov had the Sleeping Bag label.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a record called Gunshot, which was a big record that was blowing up on Sleeping. Jazzy Jeff would know about that record because he loved that.
I know about Gunshot.
Yeah. So
I know about Gunshot.
Right. And that was on Sleeping Bag. And Ben Sokolov was his brother that had his label called Signet. And then I would put all those early records like Big Up and Mompi, all those records came out. Even Old Carolina came out initially on Signet. Yeah. But then he tried some. When I got signed for $1 million in 1993, the biggest amount in the history of dancehall and reggae at that time. And then he was trying to do the EBGB on me, and we had to cut that nigga loose. we had to cut old boy loose.
Shag.
Facts.
I always wanted to know this because I don't know if I know of any musician that served in any of the Bush 1 era wars, but when they're going to send you guys to Kuwait, what's going through your mind? Because before that period, all we knew was Vietnam, and I think that America had this whole never again, we'll never get into another war ever again in this lifetime. And then I remember when they made the announcement, especially in 91, that we're going to go to war. In your mind, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts at that point was to hate the dude that actually convinced me to go in the military. The guy called Mark. I forgot his last name. He was my boy. He was like, "Oh, you got to go in the military." And then when I signed up, he had tried to send a letter to me saying, "Don't come into this shit. Don't come into this shit." And I was already done. I was like, that asshole. Here I am. People do 20 years in the military and they get a paycheck for the rest of their life.
Right.
I do 4 years and I'm in a fucking war. What? Wow. What are the odds? And that's what was going through my mind. As far as my life is concerned, it really gave me an opportunity to be thankful or not take a lot of things for granted. Like I used to take my mom's cooking for granted. because I always think that I'm going to go to my next door neighbor's. His mom cooked better, you know what I'm saying, or whatever it is. And I would get up out of my bed and not make it. When I was in the war, I was sleeping on a cot, you know, or a sleeping bag, and then I was eating MREs.
MRE,
you know,
yeah. Meals ready to eat.
And,
yes,
and I never
What's
told
MREs?
I had to, meals ready to eat. It's like
you feel
it's
Oh,
like
them little pre-made joints.
yeah, pre-made processed military food, and then I would have to dig a hole to take a dump, and it's so much shit that hits you. Then you realize that, oh shit, you had a lot of things good that you didn't realize. So when I got out the military, I was a changed person in so many ways, because I realized what not to take for granted. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that really. So while I was in there, I didn't fear for my life so much, because we were so gung-ho about. And in the military, in the war, it was hurry up and wait. So literally, we fought the war for about 2 days. The rest of it was, you know, running around and moving around. The 2 to 3 days of heavy fighting, then they stopped it, was where it was in the shelling. And those 3 days was crazy.
Did you when you came back home, did you like have to go through any kind of therapy or counseling just to kind of readjust and react?
Nah, that was the easiest war, because you had low. It wasn't like Afghanistan or this place. You know, the Gulf War was a cakewalk compared to the rest of those, bro. You know what I mean? It was low casualty, and I get it. You know, we lost people, so one son or a daughter from a mom or a pop is not low casualty, but in the pantheon of things, it's considered low casualty. So I got out, you know, unfazed by it, but in a way very thankful, very very appreciative, and very aware of how fortunate I am, you know, and I never look back.
Once you sign the dotted line and the government owns you,
yeah,
how fast can you get out of it? Like, I'm certain that in basic training,
you got to do your 4 years. No, you got to do your 4 years.
Okay, it's high school, college.
Unless
unless
you get kicked out.
Unless you get kicked out, yeah. And if you get kicked out, then you know you can't hold any government jobs. You know what I mean? There's so many things that you can't do once you get kicked out of the military.
Probably got passport issues.
Government jobs, as in like garbage man too, like even
anything, police, anything, you can't do any of those things. There's certain things you just can't do when you're out. If you look at Walt Disney, when you always see Walt Disney sitting down, if you notice, there's always those pictures behind him. There's one that was up. There was one that was upside down. That was his dishonorable discharge.
Ah, wow.
Oh, well, he did just fine. All right.
Well, I was gonna say there's a lot of there's a major history of like Jimi Hendrix, Rick James, like people. And
you look at me, I was not a model Marine. I came out one above a PFC. But if you go to Paris Holland now, my picture's like Shaggy's a Marine.
right.
They sell me. Yeah, they use me to recruit these days.
How did you transition? Because, you know, being in the military, that's like very, you know, rigid. It's, you know, structured. You have, you know, time every day. How was the transition going into the music business where nothing is structured? How did you make that transition?
I think it's what set me apart from everybody else, certainly in dancing.
Had to.
You know, apart from me having a sound and a different style of music, I worked my ass off. Yeah, I was professional. I was on time. I worked really hard, and you know, and it really set me apart from everybody else. That's what really did. So that transition wasn't hard because I was in the military doing that.
Let it be known that Shaggy might be the first QLS guest that showed up 10 minutes early before the interview started. I was in a car on the way home from the Tonight Show, and they're like, "He's here already." I'm like, "Yo, man, I didn't even get to my apartment yet."
Go ahead, correct him, Shaggy. Go ahead, correct him.
15 minutes early, not 10.
Oh, and he was making me do push-ups while
Shaggy, I always wanted to know this. Okay, so when I started to seriously DJ, especially, you know, there was the period where a lot of the I guess the WP record compilation stuff started coming out, and basically, you know, you have a gazillion. Okay, first of all, what would I call? Okay, so if someone looks at someone in hip hop and the person that's doing the rhyme or whatever, we'll say, okay, that's the MC, that's the rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that technically you guys are DJs, but like, what would you commonly call the person with the microphone in dancehall culture?
Ooh.
Are you calling him an MC or a rapper?
No, DJ. They call him a DJ. So they call it a DJ music. So we're a DJ. They used to call it back in the day toasting.
Toasting, yeah.
Like the British would call it toasting. But in dancehall culture in Jamaica, you say, yo, use a DJ. To this day, my nickname is DJ.
Well, like, who's the guy in the back with the records? Who is he?
Selector.
That's right. I knew that. I was just testing everybody else. I knew that.
Right.
He's a selector, yeah.
Come down, selector. I guess.
Can you tell me the process, especially, you know, starting in at least 87, 88, when like dancehall is really, really finding its legs? How do rhythms get distributed? Like, how are you guys aware that, yo, okay, let's take the most infamous one, which is the Sly and Robbie Murder, She Wrote rhythm.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we live in a time where you can pick up your iPhone and something goes viral. But how are people aware that there's a new rhythm ready to be like ripe for business, in which, you know, I can rhyme over this or not rhyme, or toast over this?
Well, you know, that particular rhythm, a lot of people don't know that Robbie Shakespeare wasn't really on that.
Mm-hmm.
It was really Sly. Now,
just
but they're a team as Sly and Robbie, but Robbie really didn't play bass on that. It was really, and Robbie has been a very, very close friend of mine for years, you know. But that rhythm itself, you know, it was made with Chakademus and Pliers, and they did 2 songs on it. I think Pliers did Bam Bam, which was a cover of the old Toots.
Right.
Bam Bam record. And then they did Murder, She Wrote. And those were the 2 records first. It didn't become a rhythm until after that, where Sly started to make it as a rhythm for other people to do and started doing different versions.
Okay, I'm gonna just say it, you guys, because I'm gonna say it for the folks that don't know. Just tell them what the rhythm is. Tell them what the rhythm is.
The background. Don't you notice like sometimes you'll hear the same song?
Yeah.
You'll hear the same musical backdrop. Okay, with everybody.
Okay.
Like kind of for a couple, well, not couple, way back. The what was your girl, Lumi D?
Right.
That was the Diwali rhythm. That's the Diwali rhythm.
So the Diwali rhythm is done by Lenky Marsden, who's also a protege of Sly and Robbie, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And Lenky Marsden is one of is one of the arrangers on this new album with me and Sting. So he created that and did Sean Paul's Get Busy and all of those records, and Wayne Wonder, No Letting Go, and all.
Yeah, Wayne Wonder, yeah.
So when someone makes
that record, that was a very popular rhythm too.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just asking from the musical standpoint. So say if I make a beat, right? I produce something.
Yeah.
Do I want everyone to rhyme over it? And am I getting paid? Like the person that does the rhythm to whatever. Like when he does that rhythm and then like 30 people are rhyming and releasing records on that rhythm. Yeah. Am I getting paid 30 times or am I just?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Oh, yes, you are. Because each song is a new composition. So Lumi D, is a different composition. Sean Paul,
Get Busy.
Get Busy is a different composition. So is Wayne Wonder. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So there's no like territorial pissing. Like, I don't know. No. Like if I made something dope, like Grinding by the Clips, if the Clips rhyme over grinding, I would figure that Pharrell wouldn't want anyone else to have that musical backdrop except for the artist he intends it for.
Yeah, but if you
like
if
I said,
you
just up for grabs.
but if you in the business of money, you're gonna want to have though.
Facts. Yeah.
Right.
You
You know what I'm
don't want
saying?
somebody just jacking your shit, but if you're saying that
Like
everyone
all right,
pussy
take for instance,
paid-
you got Sting did Every Breath You Take, and then Puffy did it over with I'll Be Miss You. It's the same
Right.
beat. Sting got paid twice.
And now y'all just sound like it's marrying samples or marrying into the rhythm. You know
You know what I mean?
I
So
get
you know what I mean? It's the same shit. You know what I mean? So I want that to happen. Nowadays, it's not as popular to have rhythms again as much. You know, it doesn't dominate like that. It's mainly, and the internet really changed that. So you'll see people do, you know, because YouTube is where most Jamaicans consume their streaming. So they'll be buying into these songs, and it's too easy, you know, to just get into different songs now.
Well, that was my next question. I was about to say, like, I haven't seen a new rhythm since like 2007 almost. It's almost like it went out. So for you, where is dancehall culture? I have a feeling that, like, is there something new that the younger generation's embracing?
Chronix is a part of the new generation, I would think. You know?
But he's an old soul.
Yeah, but that's a guy where the music that he made was appealing to the young guys, but also to older people. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
People fuck with Chronix who were old or people who were young. You know what I'm saying? But as far as dancehall now, you know, if you look at what dancehall is right now, it's a different kind of a sound. But what dancehall is looking for is that superhero star that I'm telling you about, to really make it cool and shift it. You know, the sound might very well be there. It's a combination of two things: the sound, right, and the artist and the star. You know, because you could sing something backwards in Hebrew. If you're cool enough doing it, you're gonna grab onto it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Now, is there a lack of a certain type of charisma? Yeah, I mean, the same way that there will never be another Michael Jackson, there will never be another Prince.
And I'm going to break it down to you. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to break it down to you.
Hit me.
There is a lack of that because you might have somebody who's really talented, but they don't have charisma, or you might have somebody that got the charisma, but he can't spit real well, or you might have somebody that got the charisma and he could spit well, but then the person's lazy as shit. Don't want to do no interviews, don't want to go nothing. And so, or you might have somebody got all of that, but they got a manager that's just a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at it, to get that superstar, you got to have all of that lined up. Take for instance, you look at Afrobeat. Everybody say Afrobeat has been coming forever. Blah 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 blah. Okay. But you look at Burna Boy right now as the biggest in the world. Now, if you go to like Nigeria and talk to probably the average person, they'd be like, Burna Boy ain't that guy. You know what I mean? You not go, because same shit that go on a different day with a different artist. You know, they say same shit with me. Oh, Shaggy, I ain't that. You know, whatever it is.
So whoever the popular one is.
But what sets Burna Boy apart? That's the guy that did the work. Because how are you going to tell the guys in Africa? Africa is a continent. These guys are driving Lamborghinis and Ferrari. You gonna tell them to come over here and do Questlove show for free? Fuck out of here. It takes a different mindset of a guy to be like, you know what? I'm seeing a bigger picture here. I'm gonna go do Quest's shit for free, and I'm gonna come from 15 minutes early and make sure that motherfucker see me when he comes. I mean, and it ain't money for that guy. It is really a bigger picture of where he wants to go. That's what Burna Boy has. That's the guy that decided he's going to do it. Now, what's going to happen now is once you get that, you're going to see a lot of motherfuckers who was driving them car be like, yo, I want to be as big as that. Yo, he ain't shit. Fuck that. You know, and they're going to start to work now because he's now setting that trend of what to do. You notice right after Shaggy, there was a Sean Paul. I mean, and that becomes trend. You notice right after, remember what motherfuckers used to do until Jay started putting on suits, you know, and putting fitted on, and then motherfuckers became, instead of rappers, they became moments, you know. And remember that, and Jay came with a model. You know, he went Beyonce. I saw 50 do an interview the other day and said, we know why Jay made it, because he signed that contract. What contract? Beyonce. because Beyonce was this leverage. Because you're gonna have a different conversation now when you got Beyonce in the room. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's a difference. And if you look at the model, it became okay. So what came after that? Kanye and Kim, same model. Swiss and Alicia, same model. You know, right now you got Cardi B and Offset, same model. You know what I mean? It's been patterned because it was blueprinted by Jay.
Yes.
And you saw that it worked. And you followed it. You know what I'm saying? And that's all we're trying to do in dancehall is create that mold. That'd be like, oh shit, that's blueprinted. This motherfucker made that. I'm gonna fuck with that. And you might do a spin-off of it. It ain't gotta be exactly the same way, but you got something as a guide to bring you there.
But making that next Shaggy is more of a challenge, I think, than people even know. Because I was just thinking about this as we were talking about these other records that came out during the time when you did, like even with the Murder She Wrote or Flex.
Yeah,
y'all remember Matt? I was like, the other one thing that you have and that nobody ever did, and we don't want to admit this as Americans, is that we knew what the fuck you were saying, because for like the rest of those records, we was just
exactly.
But
that was calculated. I figured it out. You know what I mean? I knew motherfuckers like reggae because they like the cadences and the flow. I took dancehall cadences, but I just spoke the Queen's English. So I put a little patois word there and there, but then I made it clear enough. Life is one big party when you're still young. But who's gonna have your back when it's all done? It's all good when you're having that accent that is there, but that was deliberate. It wasn't accident.
But to the point where people question your validity as like, you're not from Jamaica.
Dude, that shit it made me and killed me at the same time. It made me because I got on every single radio my records would be. It killed me because they'd be like, that nigga ain't real Jamaican. You don't hear that motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? That motherfucker ain't Jamaican. And I am more Jamaican than all the motherfuckers because I'm from the gutters of Jamaica. You know, I'm from the hood of Jamaica. You know what I mean? I did everything Jamaican out of there. But at the end of the day, as history absorbs you after a while.
Yeah, that story wasn't told, Shaggy, though. That part of the story was never told about you because of the fact that you skipped and went to that pop thing. So everybody who was pushing toward that direction had no idea that we wanted to hear that story. It was necessary.
And I didn't want to go pop. I just go where they accept.
We know. Understood.
Because if you think about it, there's another guy that was in my company. His name was Bob Marley.
Yes.
Notice that Bob Marley was never played on black radio.
Yes.
He was played on rock radio.
Yes.
It's so ironic now that Marley has now become a symbol of black people.
But in defense of
the black struggle.
But in defense of black people of that time, you're right. It's funny because it was truly black radio's fault, not black people. Which my mother always makes it clear, like, don't get it twisted. I saw the documentary too. We fucked with him. Radio did not.
Radio did.
Exactly. So it's so ironic. And then what was so crazy is that the Marley music that you hear now, that is now the blueprint of reggae music, was actually a hybrid. Because of rock. Because let me show you, Chris Blackwell. To get reggae to be played on rock records, he hired session musicians to do overdubs on a lot of the original Wailers records, and created a hybrid, and that's how. And those records are now the blueprint of what reggae music is. Now, if you look at it, even with Sting and the Police, Sting used to idol. Sting told me this, that he tried to emulate. He tried to emulate. Family Man and the Wailers and all of these reggae bands, and what he created, he couldn't do it. So what he ended up doing was a hybrid version of it, which became the sound of the Police.
Regada de Blanc,
Regada
de Blanc,
it became white reggae, and if you look at the Police, they were really the first white reggae band. That sold millions, you know. And if you look at it now, at all the rest of the band, you look at UB40, all of these bands that have sold over 10 million are massive. They're all white. UB40,
No doubt.
AC Bass, right? Even now, the two biggest reggae bands is Soldier and Revolution.
Yes,
White reggae bands.
I was with Spice in that fight. Y'all should have won. Y'all should have won.
Okay. Matter of fact, Bob Marley, who is arguably the biggest reggae artist of all time, his only number one was "I Shot the Sheriff," that was done by the white guy,
Eric Clapton. Yeah,
Eric Clapton.
Wow.
Wow. You better teach this master class,
So-
Shaggy. God damn.
Shaggy,
Yeah.
when you're having this initial success with Caroline and all these hits, you're now stepping into spaces and territories that are, only for, the elite artists. And so what's that experience like now getting to play these stadiums and doing these shows that otherwise, you're not doing these like local run-of-the-mill nightclubs and
Sound systems.
I tell you what, I never felt accepted.
I believe that.
I never felt accepted in any of it. I always felt out of place. Even though I was in the room with some of these big names and I sold those numbers, I never felt like I was accepted as part of it. It was like, okay, he's just a thing.
oh, you got lucky and you're here.
Yeah, and like
So even when you
Kelly,
perform for Michael Jackson,
I never felt
at MSG.
Well, Michael was a different thing because
I think he actually said, "I love."
Yeah, he
song.
gave me Michael gave me. Yeah, he
Yeah.
said it was his favorite record. But Michael gave me a speech. Like I spoke to Michael and he gave me a speech. And when you're talking to Michael Jackson and he knows everything about your album more than you,
wow.
then you realize that person is studying you.
Yeah,
Like he was asking me about album tracks, not singles, album tracks. Like keeping it
quick
real and
backstory.
shit. Like, you know.
So quick backstory, Michael Jackson, before streaming culture, Michael had like 4 dudes every week. Like 4 guys would have to study every chart around the world.
Yeah.
And then make Michael Jackson a compilation of every top 20 chart for every country in the world. And so every Monday morning, Michael Jackson's getting a new compilation of whatever is like just gotten to the top 20 and he's studying it.
Yeah.
And if he likes
Clive Davis did the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and then if he likes what he hears, then he studies that artist's whole history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which explains why it takes like 6 years between records. So he's busy studying.
Yeah. So Michael for me was a validation because for one, I didn't even know the guy knew my name.
Right.
Imagine how shocked I was that I got the invite. I'm like, I'm dancehall. Are you serious?
Yeah. Or the genre. I'm like,
or the genre. Yeah. And that I was gonna be on prime time singing that shit. You know what I'm saying? And then he reacted how he reacted. So that was a moment for me. So that was a part of the a validation for me. But I think the biggest validation I got was Sting. That was the biggest validation for me. That like Sting restored every confidence that I was lacking.
Talk about it. How did you guys meet?
You know, funny enough, I met Sting in 2004 in Antwerp, and I jumped on stage and did Roxanne, and I never saw him again until years after.
Was that the Police reunion?
No, it wasn't a Police reunion. He was just doing.
He did Roxanne on his own.
No, he did Roxanne, on his own. Yeah, he does that every night. It's his song. He wrote all of them, so it's good.
Well, no, I know that, but normally when I see Sting, I get Jazzy Sting or whatever. Like he never touches his Police catalog.
No, he's that night he did, and we ended up doing in Antwerp. I was on a thing called Night of the Proms with me, James Brown, Cyndi Lauper, Pointer Sister. All of us was there. It was a big orchestra thing. We were there for a month. And that's when I met James Brown too, who took a liking to me and kicked my door in and gave me a full fucking sit down one evening.
What was that like?
He walked into my dressing room with a bodyguard guy behind him, and the dude that always put the thing over his shoulders. And he walked in and said, he says, "Sit down, I want to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm not getting like a James Brown beat down or something." and so I sat, and then he was like, "Let me tell you something. I've been watching you every night. I seen them come, I seen them go. I've been to your country. I parted with Molly. Let me tell you something. You good. You the truth. You funny. You need to let them see both sides." And I'm looking at him and I'm going to say, "Let me tell you something. They can take away your woman, your house, your car, your money. There's one thing they'll never take away from you: your talent. And as long as you have your talent, you're a rich man. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless you." He get up and he walked out. That was my James Brown, moment there. And I was like, because he would come out on the stage, like all of us, we had this orchestra that was playing, and we would come out every now and then and play different songs. And he would come out every time it was my segment, he'd pull a chair up and he'd just sit down and watch me.
Wow.
That's intimidating. And then I would be like, Mr. They would say Mr. Brown, and I'd be like, "Godfather," and he'd always, "Hey, Shaggy," and he comes in and he always was hollering at me like that. And he just really took a liking to me for some reason. I heard he was a hard ass, but he was like really just a really cool guy to me for some reason. He just liked me. So we were there doing that, and then Sting came in and for one night and we gave up the night, and that's the first time I met him. Years afterwards, Martin Kirsenbaum, who was my A&R at Geffen, when you remember that time when MCA turned into Geffen.
He remembers.
So Martin was the head of International, and he was the only person that really championed my project at that time with A Sexy Lady and these other records. And so I decided to say, "Hey, that guy championed me." I told Jimmy I want him to be my A&R. And so Martin and I became really good friends. Martin then did Cherry Tree Labeling, signed Lady Gaga and LMFAO and all of these bigger bands. And when Martin left Interscope, he started managing Sting because he was also Sting's A&R for years. And he just thought, he knew me and knew Sting and just thought that we would get along. And I had a song called "Don't Make Me Wait." And Martin says, "I love that song. Could you send it to me?" So I sent it to him. And I'm in the studio in LA when I sent it to him. I'm doing some shit. And Sting walked in singing it. And he was like, "Don't make me, come on, Shaggy, let's make this a hit." And I was like, "Oh shit.
Oh
this
shit.
really happened." Yeah, it was like really. And we sat there and he looks at me and he says, "Now I want you to produce me. I want it to be authentic. This is your genre. I want you to," and I'm like, "You want me to produce you?" That's the funniest shit I've ever seen.
What's that like? Because I hear he's hard to take instructions. So
no, he's very easy. He's one of the easiest guys you could do.
Really,
the only thing you could realize with Sting is that when he's creating, if he comes up with something and you like it, and he likes it, just know he's doing 30 more of them, and he might come back to the original. Wow. That's his process.
Oh, that's so fun.
It might be frustrating to you that if you hear that one that you like, he's not, "Okay, I know you like that. Okay, we'll put that in the pocket. Now I got 30 more to do."
Right.
Dumb question, guys. Shaggy, are you the first reggae artist that Sting has worked with?
I don't know. I don't think Sting has worked with so many people, but I'm the first one who's done an album.
Yeah.
Like a full
well,
album.
yeah.
Yeah, he's never done a full album with anyone like that. Me and him do a full album together, and it was a camaraderie. We met each other and just was like, we had more fun than music, and we just started laughing, and it just happened. Sorry, go ahead.
We performed with each other, like I think right before the pandemic, like the summer before, and when I got the record, I always wanted to know, why did you guys name it 44876?
Well, we was just trying to be creative.
What's the significance behind the number?
So 44 is the area, is the phone code. When you're in the UK, you press plus
right.
44.
Oh, plus 44.
Yeah,
and
right. Yeah,
876 is
and 876 is Jamaica. So it's 44 to 876. Yeah.
I see now.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
It makes a good story.
I see. So yeah, I want to get to, before we close, I definitely want to get to this new project. So
Please.
I did not see this coming. Now,
Me neither.
yeah, I'm a Sinatra fan. Like, tell me the genesis of how you came up with this idea. I'm going to do Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, he asking it all intellectually.
We were on tour on the 44876 tour, and we had a day off in like Norway or one of these places, and we're on the fjords on a boat. Sting says, let's take a boat out and just hang out for the day. And then we were out there, and it was me and Dominic Miller, his guitarist, and we're all out there on the boat. And we had drinks and everything. And then he jumped off into the water and started swimming. And I was like, I do that shit. That's just cold. I'm Jamaican.
Right.
That ain't me, bro. So he jumped off and sing and started to swim in there, him and Dominic. And I said, I'm staying on the boat. So while they was out there swimming, I'm like, okay, let me put on some music. So I just put on some Sinatra because I like Sinatra. And I was raised on Sinatra in Jamaica.
Don't?
Like I say, it's Sunday music. So I just started playing it from my phone. And then Sting was coming back up on the boat and I was singing along to it. And he just looked at me and says, yo, that's your key. I'm like, okay. I was like, no. You have the same tone as Sinatra. He's a bass tenor, you're a bass tenor. And so he's going to me with all this shit. And I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. And then we started talking and he said, well, it would be cool if we did this in reggae and blah, 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 and all this shit. The shit stayed away to like, this is before the pandemic, all that shit, just sit around, we ain't done shit. And then
right.
Last year, top of the year, he looks at me and says, the year before he says, he was doing this thing in Vegas. What do you call it? The
residency.
Yeah.
And I went out there to the residency and sat and kind of jumped on stage with him tonight. And we were backstage and I started singing the Sinatra shit again and he's playing and shit. And he said, Shaggy, we should do this. I'm like, all right. Again, I'm not thinking nothing. And he's like, what are you doing the top of the year? I said, I'm going to be in Miami. He says, let's do it. And then top of the year, he came to my house in Miami and he called me and says, oh, we're going to do it. So I ended up flying some musicians up and we did it at my house, in my studio, in my house in Miami and started doing it there. By the end of the week, I had like 8 songs. I was like, oh shit, this is really happening. And it really started. And then we ended up going to Jamaica. Now we got like Dean Fraser, Lenky Marsden. We got all the original dudes. We got all the backgrounds done. And then we ended up going to LA at Capitol into Sinatra's, and we did like,
you did it at the studio.
Yeah, we did it original.
Yeah, we weren't there.
We recorded there too, Shaggy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's trippy. It's trippy,
with the microphone and
it's trippy. You know what I mean? And so we ended up doing that, and then it was Rob. Rob who had done was good at that repertoire that Sting brought in, and we had to, because in most reggae records are good on 2 chords. You know this, most reggae records are 2 chords, and Sinatra's 4, 5, 6 chord changes.
Right.
We had to figure out, the genius was how to figure it out to make it not be more jazz than reggae. Because if it's too jazz, then it's just going to be corny. And if it's too reggae, then it's got to be enough jazz. So you had to take the right amount of chords out to make it work. And strip it down. And that was experimental, because if it went too much, then it would be, it would be too corny if it's too much. And, it became a really, really hard process. And it took Sting really hearing what he was saying. And all the vocals was produced by Sting. Like, he sat there with me and taught me every note on the piano, just like, nope, not that. Nope, not that. Nope, not, and really cracked on me to make sure that I got, crack the whip. to make sure that I did. We average about 2 songs a day.
What was the most challenging song in the songbook to conquer?
Luck Be a
Saturday
Lady was
Night?
hard.
Oh, because it's
wow.
Luck Be a Lady was really, really hard. And Saturday Night. And I would think That's Life was also challenging. Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. It was hard. And it's really just, he wanted it, like he says, he kept saying to me, don't do Sinatra.
Right.
I don't want Sinatra. I want Shaggy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was important for him to get that. He said, you're doing Sinatra songs. You're in the same register as him, but don't do Sinatra. I want you to do, because I had a tendency of mimicking people. So I would mimic Sinatra. So he was like, no, I want Shaggy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was adamant about
it. So at one point you took your trademark voice away to try to croon like Sinatra?
No, it wasn't even that. I would still use that voice, but just the way Sinatra would sing it, note for note, I was copying that. And he didn't want that. It was like, I want Shaggy. You got to bring that reggae flavor. It's reggae. I want that Shaggy. And he was very adamant about it. I mean, when I say every line, man, I mean, he was really on it. And if you work with Sting, this guy is there. He's ever on time. He's early always, and he's always beating you there. So, and I live at my studio and he'll be there before I get up. And I'm like,
you in the military.
I'm like, dude, come on, man. And so
no,
he'll be there.
Y'all rose to that challenge.
Yeah. And he'd do it in the day straight down, and by 6, 7 o'clock, he'll stop. And that's how we worked every day. It was never a late night, nothing. By 7 o'clock, we would probably go meet him at the bar by 8 or so. And by 9, he's like, okay, I'm going to bed. That's always we'll have like a glass of wine or something like that.
We didn't get the answer. How did you get your name?
Shit.
No. Because you can't.
It wasn't Scooby-Doo related? No.
Just because your curl pattern is undefined?
Let me tell you something. I was skinny and I had a lot of hair, and they call me Shaggy Dog. And then I went to
like
England.
The dog, not even.
And then I went to England and found out that Shag meant something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So then you kept it. Oh.
I was like, that shit cool.
You are mess.
See, I just thought you were a Scooby-Doo fan.
Yo, no. You are old. I love this mess. I wish the whole world.
I'm like, oh shit, that's what it means. I'm Mr. Lover.
Oh,
Shaggy.
Listen, Amir, why is Shaggy not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? We need the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We need the Kennedy Center honors. The nigga is a national treasure.
You a legend.
So, Bombastic. I mean, just tell us about how your life changes when you have a huge record.
So I did Old Carolina. It became #1 in the British chart. It was massive, and it was #1 in almost. So, and Ken Berry signed me, who was the co-founder of Virgin. Mm-hmm. Ken Berry had signed that record, and I was in a bidding war with Chris Blackwell and Ken Berry. Now, I wanted to go with Island Records because that's where all my reggae heroes were.
Right.
And Suzette Newman, who was Chris Blackwell's right hand, and me got really, really friendly. She really loved me. She picked me up from the airport. She would rock with me all the time. So I really wanted to be on that label. I was friends with Apache Indian at that time. Him and I used to hang out in London, and he was on that label. So I really wanted to be on that label. And I was driving to go sign a deal memo, and my manager got a call from Ken Berry offering me £1 million at that time in 1993, which was unheard of. And I think Chris Blackwell was offering me something like 150 to 200,000 pounds, bullshit money. Yeah. And I went there. I was like, okay, can you match it? And Chris was like, well, it's a little bit too rich for me. I mean, I've never paid that much for a reggae artist. I'm not about to now, because he paid $4,000 for the mark for the.
Don't even finish that sentence.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm just letting you know. So so I went with Ken Berry because he gave me a better offer. And then when it happened, Old Carolina happened, I did Bombastic. And when I did Bombastic, it came out and debuted at #1 the first day it was out. And it was the first time in reggae or dancehall history that any reggae or dancehall record would debut on the British chart at #1. And Ken Berry called me and he said, Shaggy, congratulations, you're #1. I'm like, what's #1? The song. I said, we just put it out. He says, yes, it debuted at #1. He says, wow. He says, and then he says, I wonder what Chris would be thinking now. And I said, and then I said, well, Chris, he said he couldn't, it's reggae. He was going to make that much money. He says, funny you should say that. I made my million back on Old Carolina. It was top 5 in every country. This is just the bonus. And it debuted at #1. And it was the first time in the history. And the crazy part about it, when I was doing that record, I was in a car driving to HCNF studio in Long Island. And I had the track on a cassette. And it was cassette back in the days. And I'm playing it. And all I could do, the only vibe the beat gave me was just moaning. I just kept moaning on the record. I moaned the whole drive. I just whoa, roll, lover, roll. And so when I got to the studio and Sting International put it up on the tape, I just went around there. I just started moaning. Busted. Fantastic. Roll. And then Sting looked at me and said, yo, motherfucker, you got to put some lyrics to that shit. Fuck out of it. I like what you say, but you. And it's a smooth, just like a silk, soft and cuddly, up like a quilt. And those records were all freestyle. I never wrote those records. It was started from moaning.
Wait, what?
Wait. The irony of you telling the story, because even in the story of Let's Get It On, and this really comes full circle because Jan Gage just passed away.
Yeah, man.
The version of Let's Get It On that we know was a freestyle, because basically the moment he saw Jan Gay or Jan before she used Jan, Jan, when he saw Jan Hunter walk in the room, he was showing off and he freestyled.
Originally, the original Let's Get It On, it was gonna be like a political song. It was like,
let's get it organized, let's get it on.
Let's get it right.
Yeah, but the crazy part though, I did those moaning not because the Marvin Gaye version that of Let's Get It On that is on Bombastic was a remix.
So that
the original, which was big in every other country except the United States.
I should know this, but
what's the original?
The Marvin Gaye version that happens to be only in North America. In America. That's it. In every other country in the world, the original is the hit record.
So when you perform it, you do which version, depending on where
in America? In America, I use the Marvin Gaye. Everywhere else in the country, I go to the original reggae version, which was massive. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, wait. Since you told that story, then I need to know: did you ever find out what Virgin thought once you went to MCA with It Wasn't Me? Because I'm almost certain that they said like, okay, well, we had our one hit.
So Ken Berry, who is of course the head of Virgin, ended up moving on. It was the craziest thing. After that, I got that record. I ended up doing Maxi Priest's album at that time, and we did That Girl, which was also a top 5 record.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
That.
Yeah.
And then I put another record out, and it came out the same day Princess Diana died. And they just stopped playing records. They just played Candle in the Wind on every radio station.
They were for a long time.
And so my record tanked and my album tanked. And there's a guy that was the head of the record company. Ken Berry had now moved on to running, because he had success with me and Lenny Kravitz and Janet. So he was a big wig now. So he ended up running EMI, the whole EMI. And there was a guy called Paul Conroy who became the president, and he just did not know what the fuck to do with me. It's like it was dance all in. And so they dropped me. And they dropped me and Maxie and signed the next dancehall sensation at the time, which was Beanie Man.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And they say
that ain't the same money.
They dropped me, they signed Beanie Man, and they were trying to get hits out of it. And sitting there trying to do the Maya record, a couple of those records was going.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Moxie, who was the
he was a Payday.
Right, he was at Payday.
That's my guy.
He ended up being the head of A&R at that time and running Virgin at that time and the whole Janet thing. And he put Beanie Man with Janet Jackson and all that shit. So it was so crazy about that is in the time that was going on, Jam and Lewis decided to do a project for How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
Yeah, they did the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah.
They did the soundtrack.
Oh, that's
and
right.
So,
Ooh, boy, I love you so. I forgot about that joint.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Here the crazy part now. Terry McMillan, who actually the story was about, who was the writer, and she did the story autobiography about herself and her courting of this guy and her. She told Terry Lewis that you got to get Shaggy on that soundtrack because me and my man used to fuck to that Boombastic record.
In Jamaica.
Bro.
In Jamaica.
That is
true fucking story. And that's how Terry Lewis came to New York, found me and said, Shaggy, I want to play a track. And the track had, ooh, boy, I love you so. Da, da, da. And I just when he started playing, I was like, I would the man allowed to make you moist and wet. I would the man allowed to make you moan and sweat. Sweet, succulent, and fine. And he's like, oh, shit. And I'm just in awe because I'm in Jimmy Jam and Terry fucking Lewis. like, what the fuck? And Terry is like, oh, man, you shit. Oh, shit. And he called Jimmy because Jimmy was there. He called Jimmy and said, oh, man, you need to hear this motherfucking shit. And he was like, and then he started playing a bunch of records and it got like Mary J. Blige and Casey and Jojo and Boyz II Men and fucking Prince and all that. I was like, oh, shit, my record ain't gonna make it. Fuck that shit. And just so it happened, they ended up putting the soundtrack out because at that time when the movies came out, you put the soundtrack out without a single. And you put the soundtrack out and radio just started playing the track with me and Janet. But we didn't have single rights to that song. So he couldn't be a single.
He couldn't, y'all couldn't shoot video and all that stuff.
So we ended up shooting a video eventually because the record stopped blowing up. And I was just going from station to station working it. And then we ended up doing a video, but when I did a video now, if you look at the video online, you'll see that Angela Bassett and Whoopi Goldberg's are who's singing the hook. Janet wasn't in it. Because we couldn't get her. We couldn't get her. They wouldn't. And I was a little reggae guy. She was a major pop star. They were in Virgin. Patrick Moxie wasn't going to give her to me either at that point because he had just dropped me. They had just dropped me and signed Beanie. Now I catch this fucking record and it was like, I ain't giving you Janet. Fuck that. You're going to make me look bad.
And then Beanie winds up doing a joint with Janet with the Neptune.
Exactly, which that's Soul Aluminum. So
I don't even
right.
I mean, and the Neptunes did that shit, and they spent $2 million on video and the whole shit. And my shit became number one. And then right after that, the next record that really popped up for me was It Wasn't Me.
It Wasn't Me.
And then I was off. Yeah, it was off.
And what was that? Like, was that another kind of like freestyle? It Wasn't Me? Was that what was that?
No, session? It Wasn't Me. It Wasn't Me. I got from I was watching Eddie Murphy. I was watching Raw.
Oh, Raw. Yeah. It Wasn't Me.
Yeah. And I saw that, and I was like, "Yo, that's a song." And we just cultivated from Raw. I saw Eddie in Bahamas and told him that, like, because we was backstage. I was like, you know, I took that whole shit from him. And he said, "Motherfucker, you owe me royalties."
I knew he was going to ask for money. At this point, Shaggy, I know the answer to you feeling like you getting your flowers from America. I feel like I don't know if I'm assuming that's like not as much, but I wanted to know, how do you feel about getting your flowers from the folks in Jamaica? Like, do you feel at this point that you respected as a legend that you are? And it felt like that because of you doing the Spice record. I felt like that was a beautiful kind of wraparound, like they respect you, you respect them, or is that just a hope?
It's been a journey. It's been a journey from me being starting at dancehall, then becoming pop, and then not having no respect at home, to me doing a song called Church. I literally got off Geffen to do dancehall. If you remember Quest, the record called Some of Them, Jump on Amanda with Olivia, I ended up doing that record, even though the record company didn't want me to do that record because I wanted to do dancehall. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And I knew that I had to get back into dancehall to get the street back. And then right after that, when it put it out, it didn't do very well because they didn't know what to do with it. And then they dropped me. And right after they dropped me, I wrote Church Heathen, which was a massive 19 weeks #1 in the dancehall. And then just overnight, everybody in the street started fucking with me. Oh. And then the prime minister at the time, Portia Simpson, was a woman. She was the first woman running for prime minister. Right. And she ended up using Strength of a Woman as her theme song. And every little ghetto kid was singing that shit. And that became massive. And then I ended up doing my charity concert, which was Shaggy and Friends, where I raised money for the Bustamante Hospital for Children. You know, and I had everybody from Lauryn Hill to fucking Boyz II Men to everybody. Sting was the last person that did it. And I'd done that. So it became a respectful thing after a while, where people be like, okay, this dude is the truth. I'm fucking with him. You know what I mean? And that became that. And so it became that. And I had the respect of Jamaica, but I didn't have the respect of the industry. The industry was still like, okay, this guy isn't authentic. And that came in part with Sting saying, yo, this guy is a genius, or as he would put it on interviews, which blew my mind because I think of him as like a musical genius god. Mm-hmm. But he would have these conversations like, I've never seen anybody write songs as fast as this guy, and does it, and he doesn't play an instrument. And it always freaked him out. He always says, I don't understand how you're so melodic and don't play. You know, it's all in your head. You know, and I'll sit around the mic and freestyle because we come from that. You know? Spitting these melodies and shit like that, and we go down the right lyrics side and be like, oh, okay. So he would get that. So he validated me on that level. The true validation comes now from the Spice record, which I wrote, you know, and was a Shaggy record first. And I literally took it and flipped it to the Spice, and then we put Sean Paul in it. And that became not just a massive record on the global side of things, but and a big TikTok record, but it was the streets anthem. Yeah. And it was produced by me. It was good. And then there were other things too, like for instance, Cartel did Slow Motion, which was a record, which was one of his first big records, which I produced and put on my label. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And you know, because I went there, took his voice and everything, and got it done. And there's so many other reggae records, dancehall records that I've done that were big that people didn't know I wrote, but I wrote. You know what I mean? I'm talking hardcore shit. Like Chico, girl, if you don't care, maybe see you put on in the air from the amount of money. All of these shit, Maxi Priest, whatever your eyes can see, all of these records were records that were street records that I either wrote or produced. And then so after a while, people just started to be like, okay, yeah, all right, we're fucking with him.
Is there anything that you have yet to achieve? Like, because I know, like, you know, overachievers might necessarily feel like there's one more, you know, itch they got to scratch and that sort of thing. And I know that even for us, like, we've had that same journey where, you know, our audience who does not look like us embraces the shit out of us. And, you know, but we long for our hometown, our peoples to really embrace this, which I feel like, you know, with this next project we're doing, we're going to get that moment. But yeah, no, you answered the question.
I remember sitting with your band, and I was talking. I think it was your trumpet player or something I was talking to, and we were talking about just how this gig, the late night gig, affected your whole shit. And he was like, hey, it's a different thing. You know, we got dental and medical.
I got the best teeth in the business, bro.
Yeah, and it dawned on me at that point. I was like, wow, yeah, that's some real shit. You could, and what you have done with the platform you know, even when I think I saw you and just was telling you how genuinely happy I was to see you win that night, even though it was really crowded with that bullshit that happened. But
yeah.
you know, but I was just really, because I kind of know your journey of, and I know even some of it even through Scott, because when I was in Miami with Scott and just kind of see how the whole shit go and just know your journey being on MCA and just to see what you have done with the platform. You know, I mean, it is just commendable, and I just want to take that time out to say,
thank you, brother.
You know,
I mean, I appreciate
it has not gone unnoticed.
Thank you, man. Dude, this has been amazing. I'm not blowing smoke and whatever. Like, and I'm not even trying to kick it like, oh, well, I had low expectations. No, but man, like I got to tell the world, like, you're a historian. Like, and right now, history and misinformation is like, for me, that's like almost job one, like uncovering history, making sure that, you know, we know our culture and that
finding griots.
Exactly. So this was a very important episode of Questlove Supreme. And I thank you for doing this for us, man. Thank you.
For real.
Hey,
appreciate it.
On behalf of Fontigolo, Sugar Steve, Lightyear, Unpaid Bill, it's Questlove Supreme, another classic. Under the bus, under the hood, under the notch. I don't know, like the proper clothes. what should I say, Steve? I don't know.
You know, Shaggy has a Christmas album. Merry Christmas, Shaggy.
People love that Christmas album.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. It's a Christmas album of dance, because when we were young, all we got at Christmas was that Bing Crosby
the regular
Christmas record, and my grandmother killed me with that shit. And it was like, I'm like, and ain't nothing Bing Crosby is singing, ain't nothing was looking like, because I'm in Jamaica. There's no white snow. You know what I mean? There's no Santa Claus in no chimney. There's none of that. It don't look like my Christmas. So I wanted to do an album that looked like how my Christmas looked. Which was Ragamuffin Christmas and Christmas in the Islands and those songs that's on that record. And I got from Neo to Ding Dong to Junior Reed to Bounty Killer, everybody on this singing. Bounty Killer, Beanie Man, everybody, Shensia, all of them is on this record singing our versions of our dancehall Christmas records, Christmas songs.
Mm-hmm. Christmas,
you know, I mean, it ain't Mariah Carey shit, but you know.
But you can smoke to it.
We could smoke to it.
Exactly.
Nah, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you for doing this solid and talking to us, man.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much, man.
All right. We will see y'all on the next go around of Questlove Supreme. It's Brother Shaggy.